Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome to our live Saturday question and answer class. In this class, we take a look at fluent speaking, pronunciation, American accent, whatever you need help with to improve your confidence and your capabilities when you're speaking English. At the start of class, I usually have a topic. Do feel free to put your questions in the chat at any time. And if you're joining this later on as a replay, you can leave your questions in the comments. I will go through those later on, share resources, or add your requests to my list to cover in a future class. So at the start today, I wanted to talk about some common phrases we say in greeting. So often we say hi or hello, but sometimes we ask questions related to, how are you, as a way of greeting. And so we're going to look at how we connect these, where we stress, and how to sound natural and fluent on these particular phrases. You can ask questions about these phrases or about whatever you like in the chat, and I'll be following along as we go. So let's start from the bottom up. Of course, we all say, how are you, very frequently. We don't typically say, how are you, as three separate words, but rather we run this together, how are you, how are you. So often the how and the are can link together, and the are can be reduced to more of an So you can think about that like how are you, that's that one phrase. And in that case, if we are reducing on the are, it's because we're stressing on the you. How are you? How are you? You can also say, how are you, where you're stressing on the are. The only caveat I have for that is that if I'm the first person to make the greeting, how are you? It sounds natural to stress on are and to use the full are. But if I'm responding, someone says to me, how are you? And I say, I'm fine. How are you? You can hear how that sounds strange, right? So the second person is not going to stress on are because we don't stress on repeated information. So if I'm responding to you, my job is then to stress the new information, which is, oh, how are you? How are you? And there I'm going to be more likely to use that reduction, not use a clear R diphthong on the word are. So how are you? I'm fine. How are you? Or you can use how are you in the first as the first speaker as well. So this one is always safe to use. Stressing on are, you only want to do that if you're the first person. The other thing to note with how are you is that if we're saying it casually and quickly, how are you? You can hear how sometimes people don't use that how are you? How are you? With a rise fall on the you. If people just say, how are you? More flat, then sometimes that can just mean hi. Instead of the actual question or somebody's asking how you are, expects to hear an answer, it might just be, hi, how are you? It may be just more of a greeting. And so if you've noticed in passing, if people just are saying, how are you? And they're not really waiting and listening for an answer, they're using that intonation. They're using this more as a greeting. We do often use it as a greeting and a question where it's expected, an answer is expected. Often that answer is fine or good. So usually we're just expecting to use this more as a customary greeting and give the response of, I'm good, I'm fine, how are you? Kind of a back and forth check-in. If you're not really doing well and you know the person fairly well, it's a friend, then it's okay to answer, oh, I'm not so good, or to give more information. Generally, when you hear this among people that you don't know as well or more casual associates, it's going to be more of just a quick answer and response. Even if things are terrible, you might just still say, fine, how are you, right? You're not really going to get into it there, or you're definitely not going to go into a lot of detail. So that's a very typical greeting that we start with. Similarly, same meaning, how's it going? How's it going? So in this one, how's it going? This S is a Z sound, so you can think about it linking and that Z kind of moving more onto the it. How's it? How's it going? When I'm saying how's it going, I'm going to be stressing on the go of going. So these two go quickly. How's it going? How's it going? And again, I'll probably use a little rise and fall. How's it going? The degree to which I rise and fall is something that will indicate my emotional connection to it. So you can hear if I'm just saying, how are you? Not a lot of emotion there. How are you? Sounds a little friendlier. I'm rising up a little bit, showing a little bit more emotion. Or, how are you? Even higher pitch and more length on the stressed word are is showing like, oh, I'm concerned. You've been ill. How are you? So we show that with our face. We show that with the length of our stressed word or syllable and the degree to which we change our pitch on the sound. So regular, how's it going? Or maybe a little stressed, how's it going, right? A little bit longer, a little bit higher pitch on the going. Because both of these, all of these actually have a question word, we don't need to rise up. So often we learn about with questions, oh, rise up at the end. We only do that with questions that don't have a who, what, when, where, why question word. But questions like, are you okay? That I would need to rise up. So if I'm saying, are you okay? This question can be answered with yes or with no, and it's formed by reversing, rather taking a statement, you are okay, and reversing the word order. So the verb comes first. Are you okay? Is it yours? Has it happened? In those forms, that's where we have a rise up on the stressed word. So flat, flat, and then okay. The main stress is on the K. Are you okay? I'm rising up to match that question with the yes-no question. But how's it going? How are you? We have same as statements. These types of questions have a falling pattern. Lastly, what's new with you? What's new with you? Again, we're going to stress here on you, even though you is a pronoun, not a content word. It's still the most meaningful word that comes at the end. So if I was just saying what's new, I would stress on new, but what's new with you? That's usually something where the most emphasis is on the word you, because I want to know what's happening for that person. So what's new is just another way of saying how are you or what's going on. This is typically more asking for content. So these are referring more to how are you doing, hi, kind of talking about the person. What's new with you is more an invitation to start talking about what have you been up to, what's happening, what has occurred in your life recently that you'd like to share. So it's very broad and very general, but it's a great conversation starter to get a conversation going, check in with the next person, and find out what's happening for them. Not a lot of linking or reductions here. What's new with you? Just these three are going to be fast. What's new with. So you can hear my S kind of links to my N there. And then I'm going to have my length and my stressing on you. What's new with you? Okay, so just a few options. I do have some other videos about greetings, some other videos specifically about saying how are you, but I just like to share some examples so you have a little bit of variety when it comes to trying to start a conversation. I did recently create a couple of shorts about starting and ending a conversation, phrases that you can use so you can have even more variety, and you can check that out here on the channel. Welcome everyone, it's nice to see so many of you. Thank you for attending today, and I'm going to turn to your questions now. Feel free to put those in the chat at any time or in the comments if you're watching this later as a replay. We have a question about cluster of S's, so mastering SS. So are you talking about words like glasses where you have two S's and then another Z sound at the end? Or are you talking about when there's just two S's like glass or class? So typically when we have two S's, if I'm saying a word like class or glass, this is simply one sound. So even though I spell it with two S's, it just makes the sound S. So for class, I don't have to do an additional sound. But when these become plural and I have something like classes or glasses, we have then a S sound and then a schwa or an I sound, and the second letter S is going to say the Z sound. So for glasses, I think building from the back can be helpful with that if that's what you're finding difficult. So you could say the word is, which has a Z sound, is, and then add your S, sizz, and then add your first part, glasses, glasses. And in glasses, classes, etc., the sizz part comes quickly and it's unstressed. So it is a little bit more difficult. You don't have a lot of time there to get those sounds. But I think if you build it from the back, is, sizz, glasses, or is, sizz, classes, hopefully that will make it easier for you. If that wasn't exactly what you were asking about, you can leave me another note in the chat and I will address your actual question. But that, I hope that helps you out. Okay. Thank you so much for being here with your son. It's nice to see that you're both watching together. We have a question about softer and softener. So in softer, you can hear how I don't really do a strong T here. If I'm just saying the word soft, you'll hear my T release. It's soft. But in softer, this kind of gets a little bit flapped. It's not a strong D, not softer, but softer. It's just a light, soft flap release. The vowel in softer is the ah vowel, like in dog or saw. And then we have the flap and our So I would say that sounds like saw, softer, softer. But then when we have softener or soften, it's like often, where we don't say that T sound. Now in the word often, some people say often. It's now considered correct, but it used to be only correct to just not use the T sound. So for soften or softener, we change to softener. So you can think about it. I think we don't really have much vowel there. So either think about it like softener, or I think better, another maybe better way is to think about it like soften. You're going right from the f to the n sound with no T and no vowel in there, soften, or a little tiny schwa sound. And then finally an So I'm using a mix here of IPA and alternative spelling. So softener. So softer with the T as a flap, softener, no sound for that T sound. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much. I'm sure a lot of people find that challenging, like where to say the T and where not to say the T in those two words. Wonderful. Great to see so many of you here. Thank you for your questions and your comments. We have a question about vowel to vowel linking W sound. Does it include the U sound? So we do have two types of vowel to vowel linking. I just recently made a detailed video about this. When we need the W sound is when we're linking between an U, rounded vowel, or an O, or an OW, all of those rounded vowels. That's where to another vowel. So like do it, for example, do it. That's where I'm moving from the rounded U to the W, do it. So there's a W there, or show it, or how is. That's where we'll have the W sound. The Y sound only happens when we're moving from a high front vowel to another vowel. So for example, for E, like see it, then that's where we have a Y sound, see it. The symbol is the letter J, but the sound is the Y, like yes or yellow. So it, feel, eel, the Y connection happens for the high front vowels. So no, when you're doing a vowel to vowel linking that has a W sound, you don't need the Y sound, unless you mean like if you're using the letter W, like we are, there you're going to have the Y sound connecting the E, but it's about the vowel and not the consonant sound. Hopefully that clarifies your question. If not, feel free to follow up with another comment. And after class, if I have time and I remember, I'll go back through and put some links for my vowel to vowel linking videos, other information that gives a little more detail. You can always leave a follow-up comment after class as well, and remind me to say, oh, Christine, can you please post the link to the video you mentioned for more details on your particular topic. Thanks, great question. Okay, we have a question about did you, do you, how do you, and how did you in a fast way. So for did you, I typically, when I say did you, I don't really let the D and the Y kind of connect. So some people recommend saying did you with a j sound here, did you, and there's nothing wrong with that. When I have the d and the y together, some people will make it that more into a j. So I tend to say did you, where I do like release that D and then make the y sound. But if it's easier for you, did you, people will also say that. So that sounds a little bit like did you, versus did you. Okay, so that's did you. And then you're asking about do you, here we're just going from the oo shape to the y shape, do you. Just naturally kind of keeping the voice connected, but there's no change to the sound. Do you. Except that maybe the do becomes a little bit less tense. So because if I'm saying do you, I have a clear vowel on both. If I'm saying do you know, do you know, you'll hear that maybe my oo gets reduced more to do you know, more of a schwa. So almost like do you know. And the U can also sometimes get a little bit reduced, so it could even sound like do you know. Right? Do you know? Do you see? Do you? So the oo of both of these can become more a little bit of an sound. The vowel gets reduced. Same thing here with did you know? The oo can become an depending on, if I'm just saying do you or do you, then it's going to stay the same. But do you know? Do you see it? Do you? That's do you. And did you see it? Did you? That's going to keep your I vowel so you can hear whether it's did or do. But U is very commonly reduced to more of a y sound if it's unstressed and at the start like that. Okay, great topic. I do have a few videos talking about some of those combinations in specific phrases as well. You can use the search box on the channel. So when you're on the channel page, scroll down across the menu items. There's videos, home, community, and find the search box. And then you can type in your words or your phrase. And if I have a video for that, it'll pop up. You can also just leave me a comment on any video saying, oh, do you have a video for this? And I'll look for it for you and send you the link for that video. Okay, so you also asked about how do you and how did you. So same thing for the do you and did you, and how do you. Again, the how, if I'm saying how do you or how did you, very clear. If I'm doing how do you know, how do you, this all kind of links together and becomes a little bit reduced in the vowel. So it's still kind of an ow and then an how do you know, how do you. Yeah, the ow may reduce a little bit to more of a how do you. I still think you kind of need the full ow diphthong there, or else it's not totally clear what you're saying. Okay, good. Just in general, of course, if the words are unstressed, they can be more linked and more reduced. For more help with specific linking and reduction, check out our playlists for reduced sounds and fluent speaking. And also our online course, our Real Talk course, walks through all the different reductions and linking that you do, gives you lots of examples of specific words and phrases, and also teaches you how to use television and movies to listen for linking and adopt that type of fluent speech. That's our Real Talk course, and you can find it on the website speechmodification.com. Okay, great. We have a question about evolution. So for evolution, our stress is on the oo sound. Some people will say evolution. In American English, it's more typical to use an F vowel here. So it sounds like evolution. Notice how the O, we don't say a clear vowel there. It's a schwa. So evolution, evolution. And then you're also asking about encouragement. So encouragement. So this has the word courage within it and has the same stress as courage. We're stressing on the cur syllable. Some people say courage with more of an oo, like courage. It's more typical, though, in American English, I think, for it to be just an sound, cur. So because the N is unstressed, you can say it F vowel, encouragement, but you will also hear it just as an I vowel, like in. So in courage. There's another I sound with the J. And then ment, not much vowel in that last syllable. So this one, you might want to start on the stress syllable, like encouragement, encouragement. For all of the words that when you're learning to pronounce the word, also try it in some phrases, just so that you can keep the same rhythm and the correct new pronunciation. For example, I try to offer encouragement in my videos. There's been a real evolution in development of technology. Or that's not really the correct use. The evolution of technology has been over a certain period of years. Okay, great. Thank you for those requests. All right, so we have a question about examples of pronunciation with and n. So are you looking at the contrast between these two sounds? Basically, the sound is with the lips closed, and the n sound is with the tongue lifting behind the teeth. So if I was saying, for example, might versus night. This is one where if you're speaking over the phone, people can't always hear the difference between M and N. If I'm saying the letters, for example, for the letter sounds, it's M and N. And so people will say, in American English, often M as in Mary. So, or for N, they'll say N as in night, or N as in, actually, the typical thing is to use names. So they might say N as in Nancy. What you want to watch out for is using something that's easily recognizable. So Mary and Nancy sound very different from each other. If you said M as in might or N as in night, that's going to give you the same problem as M and N, where people might not be able to hear the difference between might and night over the phone. Context will tell them, but when you're spelling something and just saying the letters, it's very hard to hear the difference and there's no context. So if you're spelling your name or your address over the phone, you want to use something like this. People also sometimes use like A, alpha, B, bravo, but finding something that's readily used and recognizable, these are two examples of that. If you're talking about M and N at the end, the difference between, for example, hem and hen, just thinking about you're closing the lips for hem and you're closing the tongue against the upper palate for hen. And if you had some other question about M and N, feel free to give me more examples of what you're looking for. Okay, yeah, that's definitely a good one, especially if you're talking about the letters and spelling over the phone. I do have a video talking about spelling over the phone, saying the alphabet, ways that we spell and clarify with letters. So check that out here on the channel as well. Okay, great. We have a question about intestine. Intestine has an E at the end. So intestine, the way you spelled it is kind of representative of how we typically say it, though. We don't often say tine, rather intestine. And also in intestine, this vowel is pretty reduced. So we almost go right from the t sound to the n sound, intestine. It's an infection in the intestine. Good word. Thank you. All right, we have a question about whether sequence and sequins are homophones. So no, they're not. So sequence, in sequence, is the S sound at the end. So we have sequence. So the sequence of events versus sequins. This S is a Z sound. So that sounds like sequins. So I'm not saying a strong Z here. I'm not saying sequins. But you can hear that this is a strong S, sequence, the sequence. You can hear the airs, and this, sequence, or sequins. The Z is a weak Z, so it kind of also sounds similar to a weak S. So listening for the difference, the sequence, the sequins. And then you'll also hear it if I'm linking. Sequins are my favorite. The sequence is, that won't be as linked, and the sound will be clear. And here the Z sound, if I'm linking to a word like R, you'll hear the Z more strongly on the next word. Sequins are not washable, etc. So that's the difference between those two. Typically, letters CE will say this sound at the ends of words. Letter S can say either S or Z, but when it follows an N sound, it's going to be a Z sound. So that where in plurals, whether the S says S or Z, you can check that out in my videos about plurals and looking at final Z sounds and final S sounds. Those details are also in my Sounds of English course on speechmodification.com. I walk you through the letters and the spelling and the sounds so that you can understand the patterns and also practice for error patterns, know the difference between similar words like that. I also have quite a few minimal pair words where only one sound is different on my playlist for minimal pairs and for contrast words. So that's a great resource for that kind of information as well. Great question. Thank you so much. Okay, we have a question about the word claim. So we have the A vowel here, one syllable, and the sound at the end. So I would say build that from just A, or you can think about it like A, then add your A, aim, add your L, lame, add your K, claim. It's similar to, it rhymes with the word blame or same. So if that spelling helps you understand the aim part, that's a good way to look at it. But just building it one sound at a time can be helpful as well to get all the sounds accurately. Thank you for that request. Okay, we have a question about the word something with a glottal stop in place of the TH sound. No, so if I'm talking about something good, something bad, something, I might not have a strong with a long release of air, something. That does get a little bit muted, but I can't do something. Well, some people do. That is a dialect that you might hear, like something's happening, something. But it's pretty informal and pretty casual. I wouldn't recommend it for professional speaking. And it's probably regional or dialect based. So, You notice that when I said that, I also dropped the ng. I did more like something. So I think if you do use a glottal there, you're doing more like where you change the ng as well. You drop the th and you just use a little stop there. Something's happening. So yeah, in casual speech that does happen. So I stand corrected. But you can also just quickly say something with the correct th and the ng sound, and that'll still be fluent and natural. So that's something something to think about. It's not very widespread. It doesn't really make it more fluent. It is just an alternative, more dialect or casual way of pronouncing that word. Thanks for that question. That was very interesting. Thanks for bringing it up. Okay, we have a question about the word debut. So I do have a video for debut. It's stressed on the second syllable, and this is an example of a word where letter U says the y sound. So we want to make sure we have the U there with the y. Debut. The T is silent. And the E in the first syllable, even though it's unstressed, has some secondary stress. It's the A diphthong. So you don't want a long day, but still doing the full vowel. Debut. So debut. That was her debut. It comes from the French. So it doesn't follow the typical spelling pronunciation patterns of American English. Okay, good question. Great. We have a question about football in American accent. So the word football is a compound word. It has stress on both syllables, but main stress on the first part of the compound. We don't release that T because we're having a consonant sound following it. So not football, but rather football. So I'm stopping the T either in my throat or a little further forward in the mouth, not releasing the T sound. Football. This is the vowel, and this is the vowel. Football. You may or may not finish the L, football, where you're lifting. You can use a dark L where the tongue doesn't have to lift. If I'm linking, football is in the fall, football is, then I'm going to use more of a lifted L there. So this one, I think the challenge is the compound, the unreleased T, and getting those vowels correct. So check out my vowel videos for the vowel, good, foot, should, etc., and the all combination. I have a lot of videos for those as well. And these are sounds I also cover in my Sounds of English course to help you with that word and other words with those same vowel sounds. Great. Thank you. Okay. And you also asked about judiciary. So for judiciary, we have the letter J saying the j sound, like jump. The letter U saying the oo. The stress is on the dish syllable, so di, and then the CI says the SH sound, she, with an E. And then the AR says the air diphthong, and then the last Y says E. So that sounds like she, air, E. Judiciary. So the judiciary is critical for maintaining the balance of power in government. Okay, very nice. Thank you. We have a question about the difference between let us and let us. So typically in connected speech, they won't let us. We have the vowel here and the schwa vowel here. In lettuce, it's very similar. They can be the same. They won't give us any lettuce. I would say we tend to use more of an vowel here. So you can think about it like lettuce. I like to eat lettuce in my salad, or let us have some. The problem is that this difference between the schwa and the I, there's not really a significant difference. So it's really context that's going to tell you which one is which. They have the same sounds otherwise. So these two are basically equivalent, but the stress may change depending on, if I'm saying they won't let us, then I'm going to have more stress on less. Or if I'm saying the lettuce is in the salad, then I'm not going to have so much length on the let of the word lettuce. But yeah, there's really no difference between those two. But there's no situation in which there's going to be any confusion, because the context is always going to tell you which one is being said. Okay, great, thank you. We have a question about videos for beginners. Yes, so I do have a 30-day challenge series that you can check out. I also think my videos for pronunciation of specific words are really good for beginners. Also go through our vowels playlist to learn about vowels, or our sounds of English playlist to learn about each of the sounds. So when you're on the channel, depending on which topics you're interested in, you can check out the various playlists. I try to have all of my videos really work for beginning and advanced students, where you can take the understanding, because often when I'm just talking about something basic like a word, there are advanced things going on within that conversation. So there's a lot of different entry points to the channel to help you move from your level to the next level, regardless of if you're a beginner or more advanced. Welcome, and thank you for being here. Okay, we have a question about the word crust. So crust has the KR blend. The letter U says the sound, schwa. And it's fairly straightforward. I wouldn't really change the spelling, except you can think about it like a K. If you're having trouble with the blend, you can start with just the R, like rust, crust. We do say both the S and the T sounds at the end. So the pizza crust was left in the box. It formed a crust on the surface. If you're having trouble with a vowel, also use another word like a crust, the crust, some crusts. Those all have the same schwa vowel that can help you match and get the correct vowel in crust. Okay, great. When constructing with sentences with I've, can you reduce the auxiliary verb? So I've seen that already, specifically in fast speech. So like, can I say, instead of I've seen that, can I say I seen that already? No, I wouldn't do that. I think you need the V. I seen that. I've seen that. I seen that. You may hear in some dialects, but it is incorrect grammar. So this is one place where I definitely say don't drop the V. I've seen. Just link it and be light and quick on it, but don't let it drop all the way I seen, because that will be heard as incorrect and improper English. Okay, very nice. We have a question about rid, read, and read. So for rid, read, and read, it's all about the vowels. So this one has the I, this one has the E, and this one has the E. You can learn more about the vowel heights and these three vowels, all of the vowels of English, in my videos for those vowels in our Sounds of English course. But basically, E is the highest and most tense vowel. Then we have the I vowel. Tongue is a little bit lower and more relaxed. And then we have the E vowel. Tongue is more central and also relaxed. So that would be read here, rid, read. Read, rid, read. So you're opening up. This one is also, that's the present tense. You can also, the past tense read. In that case, that read is the same as this read. So this word has two pronunciations. I read every day has the E sound. I read it last week is the same as this one. I also like matching with other words. So I think if you're finding it difficult to hear the difference, you might try saying something like, it is rid, matching those I vowels in those words. The head, or get read, and and then same for this one, get the book that you read, or see me read. You might find that matching other words. It's not as hard maybe to hear the difference between get and see as it is between read and read. So when the words are similar, that's a little bit more difficult. I do have a video for these words, and also bid, bed, bead, bad, all of the different vowels, with teaching you some of those techniques, teaching you about placement of vowels and hearing those differences. So check that out here on the channel. Also on our website, speechmodification.com, you can check out our Sounds of English course for all of the different English sounds. So many great questions today. I really appreciate it. We're out of time for today, but thank you. I'm sorry I didn't get to everyone's second and third questions, but do come back again next week. We'll be live again and have our question and answer class, or leave me a comment with your question that I didn't get to in the chat, and I'll get back to you with some resources and the answer to your question. Thanks so much for being here, for supporting the channel, and I appreciate it. It's wonderful to see you. I look forward to seeing you next week in our next Saturday class, and throughout the week with our Word Wednesday and Fluency Friday videos. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, everyone. Hope to see you again soon.